Course of the afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Bob Jenkins, and welcome to round number 5 of the Busch Grand National Series for 1989. The previous 4 races have all been filled with controversy. At Daytona, a last-lap accident. At Rockingham, the leader, Harry Gant, black flagged in the last few laps. At Martinsville, Tommy Ellis was put in the penalty box but came back to win. And then just last week at Hickory, North Carolina, again a late race incident involving Dale Jarrett and also Jimmy Spencer. NASCAR has announced earlier today that Spencer has been fined $2,150 and Jarrett $1,000. Both have been placed on a 6-race probationary period. So we get ready for round number 5. It should be an interesting confrontation. Why is there so much controversy in this division this year? Well, perhaps Ned Jarrett can answer that question. Ned?
Bob, I think there's a combination of things that is causing the problems we've seen so far this year. Certainly the competition is one thing, but there's a lot of sponsorship dollars flowing through this sport now. The Busch Series has grown so much in recent years, and a lot of sponsors are coming in, and that puts pressure on the driver to win. And certainly that makes him do things sometime on the racetrack that he might not otherwise do. Then you mix the Winston Cup drivers in with the Busch Grand Nationals, and I think there's somewhat of a rivalry there. And sometimes it even seems like there might be a small conspiracy to keep the Winston Cup drivers from winning. And still goes back to the competition, though, Benny Parsons.
It goes back to competition, Ned, and competition this year in the Busch Grand National has been unbelievable. Last weekend at Hickory, my 2 sons went to the race. And they told me in 15 and 20 years of going to the races, that's the best automobile race they've ever seen in their life. And today, we have that opportunity again because the first 6 positions, Jerry Punch, are Winston Cup drivers, experienced Winston Cup drivers.
Well, Benny Parsons, the rule here has always been that the grizzled old veterans are the ones that run so well here at the track Too Tough to Tame. With the exception of that rule today, this driver of this car, starting 7th, 24-year-old Corpus Christi native, Bobby Labonte. Now, the Labonte family has run very well here in the past. If the Labonte name sounds familiar, well, Bobby is the younger brother of former Winston Cup champion Terry Labonte. And Terry's first ever Winston Cup start came at this track in 1978. He had an impressive 4th place finish. He came back 2 years later to garnish his first ever Winston Cup win. And Jack Arute, you know, I think this young driver is going to try to break tradition here today at this track Too Tough to Tame, trying to get a good run in only his 2nd ever start.
Well, Jerry, another driver that would like to break tradition is right here, Mark Martin, and he'll be piloting one of the few Fords in the field, in fact, the only V6-powered Ford. And he has a point to prove. He says he'll continue to run that V6 Ford until he puts it into victory lane to match the only Busch Grand National victory that Ford has ever received. He piloted it at Bristol, Tennessee a couple of years ago. He says already that he's got the job done. He'll keep doing it until he can get it into victory lane. And if you don't believe that he's got the ability to do it, he leads a brigade of 4 Ford drivers to the front 4 positions for tomorrow's Trans-South 500. Bob?
All right, thank you, Jack. And that race will be live at 12:45 tomorrow afternoon. But today it's Busch Grand National Racing, the Country Squire Homes 200 from Darlington International Raceway. And our Speed World coverage is being brought to you this afternoon by Quaker State Motor Oil. The big Q stands for quality, always has, always will. By America's best-selling replacement battery, the Sears Die Hard. By Budweiser, Beechwood Age, for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you. And by the First Name in Filters, Purolator. Exceptional protection for exceptional vehicles like yours. There are 42 cars and drivers standing by to take the green flag for the way where the Busch Grand National cars are rolling off pit road, ready for 147 laps of competition. We are in Darlington, South Carolina. You can see there that's located in the northeastern portion of the state. We're about 2.5 hours south of Charlotte, North Carolina. Now let's take a look at this racetrack. It's called the track Too Tough to Tame. It's 1.3366 miles in length. The pole time was 31.396 seconds, and the speed 156.6, not a new record. Will go 147 laps, and they should be able to go 100 before having to stop for a fuel change. Now let's take a look at the starting lineup for today's race. On the pole position, his 4th consecutive pole in Busch Grand National competition here at Darlington, Jeff Bodine, car number 15. On the outside of row number 1 will be Harry Gant from Taylorsville, North Carolina, the Whitaker Racing Buick car number 7. In the second row will be Dale Earnhardt from Kannapolis, North Carolina, the GM Goodwrench Chevrolet car 3, and then Rusty Wallace in the number 72 Kodiak Pontiac. In the third row, it'll be Dale Jarrett in car number 32, the Portaloo Pontiac, and Greg Sachs in the Lowe's Foods Pontiac, car 87. Bobby Labonte starts in 7th position in car 44, the Winner's Circle Buick, and Mark Martin in car number 1, the Carolina Dealers Ford. Then in row number 5, it's Kenny Wallace in 36 and Tommy Ellis in 99. The 6th row, Randy LaJoy in 71 and Rick Wilson in car number 75. Going to row number 7, Darrell Waltrip in car 17 and Ronald Cooper in 56. The 8th row, Rick Mast in 22 and Bobby Hillen Jr. in 81. The 9th row, Brad Teague and Patty Moise, and in row number 10, it's Ken Schrader and Bill Parsons. As we take a look at the rest of the starting lineup, we'll tell you that there are 6 drivers that are beginning the competition this afternoon on Hoosier tires, and everybody else will be on the Goodyears. And there was some talk about them waiving the tire rule for this race, but just in the last few minutes, I guess they decided that there will not be a waive of that rule, so only 2 during a pit stop.
Yeah, that is the rule on the super speedways in Busch Grand National Racing. They can only change 2 tires during a caution period. Of course, if they come in during a green flag pit stop, they can change as many as they want to. But because of tremendous tire wear here, they did consider waiving the tire rule, but as you say, at the last moment, they decided to go with it as it has been.
Something unusual today, something I've never seen at a Winston Cup race or a Busch Grand National race before. The pace car is leaving the cars in turn 2, and the pole, the front row, is bringing the cars around for the beginning of the race. That's something I haven't seen before.
And we have a new driver of the NASCAR pace car for all this weekend. Elmo Langley will be behind the wheel of the pace car. Here comes the field off of corner number 4. It's Jeff Bodine and Harry Gant on the front row. They're looking for a green flag. Let's see if they get it. Yes, indeed, the green flag is out, and we are underway with the Country Squire Homes 200 Busch Grand National Race. 147 laps of competition. The V6s thunder into turns number 1 and 2. Now they begin to get in single file formation as they go down the backstretch. It is Jeff Bodine in that yellow and white car number 15, the Levi Garrett Chevrolet, showing the way. Harry Gant drops into the 2nd position, and it's Dale Earnhardt running in 3rd. Then comes Rusty Wallace. Then Greg Sachs in car number 87, and those 6 cars have broken away from the rest of the field as they go down the backstretch once again. And Kenny Wallace, or rather Rusty Wallace, looking to the inside of Dale Earnhardt there for a moment, trying to take over 3rd spot, but it's single file through the 3rd and 4th turns.
Those 6 cars have broken away from the rest of the field. Of course, they have a lot of experience, as Benny Parsons mentioned at the top of the show, and experience really plays a big part in getting around the Darlington Raceway.
When I spoke about experience, the one thing that we've got to consider is we see Earnhardt almost losing the car and Wallace alongside of it cut off the 2nd corner. Earnhardt really got loose up in the middle of the corner. And Rusty Wallace takes advantage of Dale Earnhardt's slight bobble and now pulls alongside to battle with him for that 3rd position in turn number 3. Here comes Darrell Jarrett to the inside of Dale Earnhardt, trying to take over that 4th spot. But now Rusty has 3rd lockdown as the first 2 positions are held by Jeff Bodine and Harry Gant. And moving up through the field, the number 25 machine that's being driven this afternoon by Rob Moroso. Bobby Hillen Jr. on the outside. Hillen had the line coming off the 2nd corner, and Moroso's going to have a problem in turn 3. Can he make it?
Boy, he had the left wheels down on the flat part there, and it's very easy for a car to get away from you in a position like that, but the young man did a good job. Well, Rob Moroso, of course, is the leader in Grand National competition point-wise as we go into this 5th event of the year. Rob Moroso, the winner of that controversial race that we televised for you at Rockingham, in which Harry Gant was black flagged with just a few laps to go, and Moroso was there to take over the lead and the win for that particular event. There we see Earnhardt. He made that bobble just a moment ago, and he's steadily dropping back just a few tenths of a second, and Dale Jarrett takes a look. Kenny Wallace taking a look on the inside of Dale Jarrett. Well, Earnhardt slipped a little bit the last time around down in this same turn. Jarrett got up beside him. That is Greg Saxon just made the pass. Here comes Mark Martin now moving around Dale Jarrett on the inside. Jarrett trying to pass Earnhardt, got passed by 2 other cars. V6 Ford of Mark Martin showing a little bit of strength now as he cleanly
passes there and going into turn number 3, and Dale Jarrett dropping back a position.
I tell you what, it looks like there's going to be some action in 1 and 2 today. That looks like that's going to be the action spot. The car's having a problem. And I started to say a moment ago, when I talk about experience, those fellas, when their car doesn't act in the groove they've been running, they'll change that groove and go to different parts of the racetrack to get around the track. There we see Earnhardt's backed up to Greg Sachs in the Lowe's Booth Pontiac right now.
And that is the battle for 4th position, as Earnhardt now apparently has got things under control once again after that slight bobble, but still you can see that he is dropping back from the first 3 who are pulling away.
Yeah, his car is not handling right in the turns, and particularly in turns 1 and 2. The car is going pretty high. You can see him right there go very high, but Greg Sachs followed him up the racetrack that time. Here comes Mark Martin right up on their back bumper. Martin is running very good through the turns, so they got him moved in now.
Earlier today, there was a Winston Cup practice session, and I was watching, in particular, that turn 1 and 2 area. It seemed like everybody was getting way up toward the wall. Maybe it's because of the wind, which is pushing them up in that direction. But in any case, that's where we've seen most of the problems as far as cornering in this race so far.
Bob, this is a very difficult racetrack to set a race car up so it feels comfortable all the way around. Most drivers will set the car up so it feels comfortable through turns 3 and 4, and when you do that, the car is normally a little bit loose through 1 and 2, and so you just sort of ride it up the turn there. You live with it there to be able to get through turns 3 and 4.
And you would ask, why would you pick 3 and 4 to set the car up for? A spin down in turn 1. That's Eldon Sawyer.
The number 42 car, the AccuTurn Chevrolet, driven by Eldon Sawyer, has slid to a stop at the bottom of turn number 2. So our first caution flag of the afternoon is displayed over Darlington International.
That's a tough break for Eldon Sawyer. He's had some good runs this year. He's been looking for sponsorship. He has not been running the full circuit because he didn't have the sponsorship dollars, and he was hoping to make a good showing here this afternoon, get some exposure on television, and maybe someone would look at him and say, hey, I'd like to be associated with that young man, because he is a fine young man.
And I started to say a moment ago, why would you pick corners 3 and 4 to set the car up rather than 1 and 2? Because the corner is bigger, and you run faster through that corner, so therefore you can make up more time in that corner than you can in 1 and 2.
It is not a perfectly shaped oval here at Darlington. Instead, it's egg-shaped, with the wider turn being in 3 and 4. And here's the 87 car of Greg Sachs, who was running in the top 5 in for a pit stop. Here's Jackaroo.
Well, Bob Jenkins, just before the display of the caution flag, he radioed in, Greg Sachs that is, to his crew that the engine was missing. So this is a break of sorts for Sachs and company, because they can at least take a look. They think a spark plug wire may have come loose, so they're checking all of the spark plug wires at the time, as you can see under the hood there. And as I say, at least he's being able to do it under the luxury of the caution, but he still has to be guard against going a lap down. They said the engine missed. Now they're going to go inside the car, and they're going to change the ignition system as well, change over to the other coil. They're checking it out. They're going to drop the hood, and we'll wait for him to fire the car up one more time and see if they've determined exactly what the problem is. But as we said, he was running so very well there, but during the break, just before the caution, it began to miss badly, and he is backing away. Back up to you.
He does not lose a lap, so Greg Sachs back out on Grand National Racing this afternoon here on ESPN, and we've completed 12 laps of this 147-lap event, with Jeff Bodine, the pole sitter, showing the way right now, with Harry Gant running in second, and third being Rusty Wallace. We are under our first caution period of the afternoon, was brought about by a spin down in turn number 2. But no contact with the wall, and we are just about ready to go back for a green flag situation as the field comes out of turn number 4, and indeed the green flag waves once again.
Some of you people back home would be asking, why would Earnhardt, if his car is not handling, why wouldn't he choose to make a pit stop under the caution flag? Because of track position. If he were to pit right now, he would go behind too many cars. He'll put up with an ill-handling race car to be able to stay up 4th in the field.
Rusty Wallace running in 3rd position behind Harry Gant, and the number 15 car of Jeff Bodine. Again, we're seeing these 3 cars pull away from everybody else, leaving Dale Earnhardt back there in 4th position, several car lengths behind now, as Mark Martin runs in 5th position and Dale Jarrett in 6th. But these 3 cars have the race pretty much to themselves right now.
Yeah, they were able to break away very quickly, as we saw the first 6 cars there a moment ago. Now it's a 3-car breakaway, and no big surprise that all of those are Winston Cup drivers.
As a matter of fact, there were 16 Winston Cup regulars in the field this afternoon, and 13 started in the top 20.
And someone might ask, why do so many drivers start in this race? Because it's another payday, and a pretty doggone good payday at that. If one of these fellows can win the race today, he can probably put in his own pocket $5,000 to $8,000, and that's a lot of money.
Now some tight competition as coming off of corner number 4. Looked like that Harry Gant looked to the inside, thinking about perhaps making a move on Jeff Bodine, the leader, but decided not to.
There's certainly good racing up there, but also back here, this is Kenny Wallace in car number 36. He is really doing battle. That's Rick Wilson in car number 75 coming down on the inside of the car number 71, which is Randy LaJoy. Darrell Waltrip is there in the car. No, he's a little bit behind them in car number 17, but a lot of good battling going on between those drivers.
We talked about competition at the beginning of the show. Look at this, Ned. They're 3/4 abreast trying to get in the corner. Unbelievable competition.
Rick Mast just barely touched one car as he got into the turn there because they realized that they can't go into that turn 3. Dennis Rader, car number 52.
And Bobby Hillen had a little game of tag coming off the corner. I think Hillen's it right now.
Well, certainly Kenny had his hands full keeping that car under control. He did so, but it was a close moment.
Well, they are really mixing it up back there in that part of the field.
Historically, this race has been a very, very good one.
Waltrip almost lost the car, went up high against the wall. Rick Mast dove under him rather than running the back of it. Dove under him. We see Waltrip's going to lose 2 or 3 spots.
Yeah, he's going to lose 3 right there, and he's not going to fight it, Benny. He very wisely just backed out of it and let it go. He realized that he made a mistake down there. The car got loose with him. He said, let him go.
Once again, the top 3 are running right together on the racetrack, separating themselves from the rest of the field. The number 15 car is Jeff Bodine. The 7 car is driven by Harry Gant, and the 72 of Rusty Wallace. Each of these drivers will be in the heat of the battle tomorrow afternoon at 12:45 when we bring you live coverage of the Trans-South 500 Winston Cup race from here at Darlington.
Well, while these 3 battle up front, there's a tremendous battle going on for the 4th position. Mark Martin got up beside of Dale Earnhardt coming off of turn 2, but he couldn't make the pass. Now he's trying to move in on him going into turn 1, but he realizes this is where Earnhardt has been having his problems. He hopes he slips high again, and he does, and Martin sticks his nose up under there.
Here comes Mark Martin in the Ford, car number 1 to the inside of Earnhardt down the backstretch, but Dale will not give up that position, and they're side by side. Earnhardt still hangs on.
The Ford is simply just, he doesn't have the horsepower down the backstretch or up the backstretch. It's almost a little bit uphill as you go into turn 3, and he just didn't have the horsepower, but he's not giving up.
Once again, side-by-side racing. Mark Martin on the inside and Dale Earnhardt on the outside, but Earnhardt beats him into corner number 1. That's Dale Jarrett in car number 32 watching the action. Now Martin hits, at least tags Dale Earnhardt, and oh, it's Bobby Labonte spinning coming up of corner number 2.
Well, I think Bobby Labonte perhaps anticipated what he thought was going to happen there and got a little overexcited, and here comes the leaders back to the caution flag. I think he got a little overexcited there, and he thought that they were going to spin in front of him and made a rash move, I guess.
What happened is he probably just jumped out of the throttle too quick. When you're coming off these corners on the big racetracks, we're going to be able to see this in replay. There we see Bobby Labonte. Now, Mark Martin's on the inside of Earnhardt. He moves up the racetrack a little bit, and Earnhardt comes down. They touch. We see the smoke. Earnhardt almost loses the car. Now, right behind, Bobby Labonte says, uh-oh, Earnhardt's going to spin out. But he don't know Dale Earnhardt. Like we know Dale Earnhardt.
Right.
There it is.
He jumps out of the throttle too quick. He jumps out of the throttle.
He got tapped.
Oh,
he got tapped back there. And that's what happened. When he jumped out of the throttle, he got tapped in the rear, and it spun him around. Spun him around, I should say.
Well, I was going to blame it on what Jerry Punch talked about in the opening of the show. That is a little bit of inexperience on this racetrack especially, but I don't think we can blame that on that incident. Definitely Bobby Labonte got tapped.
He sure did. They tell me that was the 75 car, Rick Wilson behind him, who wasn't expecting him to come off the throttle that soon.
Let's go down to the pit area and Jerry Punch.
Well, lead cars are going to make their way on the pit road as they are waiting here for the first caution flag of the day. They will try to come in and get some tires. Remember, NASCAR had originally agreed to allow a 4-tire change on all the cars because of the concern about tire wear here. And now, just before the green flag, they were able to change that back to the regular Busch Grand National ruling of 2 tires per caution. The problems early on with Dale Earnhardt have been the fact that the car is just too tight. He cannot get the car to turn off the corners. He is telling the crew here in the pits. And so Earnhardt would like to come in and get some tires and maybe get an adjustment. He told the crew he would be coming down that time by, but he stayed on the racetrack, and they are still watching and waiting for the big car of Earnhardt to make a turn down pit road.
Well, several did come in for pit stops this time, including the 17 of Darrell Waltrip. Jack Ingram was in, and so was Tommy Houston. There's Bobby Labonte in for service after that spin off of turn number 2. The work completed on that car, and he rolls back out onto the racetrack. And so 23 laps of Rusty Wallace second, then Harry Gant, Mark Martin, and Dale Jarrett. 6 through 10, Earnhardt, Rick Wilson, Kenny Wallace, Randy LaJoie, and Tommy Ellis. We're under our second caution period of the afternoon. The first one was for a spin by Eldon Sawyer. This one involved a spin by Bobby Labonte.
As Earnhardt and Mark Martin got together up there, Labonte backed off, and Rick Wilson came up and just tapped him enough to spin him around.
And let's go down to the Labonte pit now, where Dr. Jerry Punch is stationed.
What you're looking at is the aftermath of the tires that came off the Terry Labonte car. Now, his Buick spun here at Darlington. These are the tires that came off the right side. Now you're going to see the tires that came off the left side of the car. They both had been flat spotted. The rubber completely flattened away from the carcass. A big hole in both these left side tires. He was able to come in and change 4 tires without a penalty because all 4 tires were flat. Bobby Labonte back on the track with fresh rubber. Let's go up pit road to Jackaroo.
Well, Jerry Punch, under normal conditions, if you got into somebody, you'd bring the car in to check it over. But Steve Meal, the crew chief for Mark Martin, elected not to do so as we get the green flag to restart this race. Steve, you elected not to bring Mark in. Why?
He just had real light damage, he thought, on the right rear when he run up against the 3 car. He wiggled the car around a little bit, and a couple cars behind him, Dale Jarrett in particular, told his crew to tell us that the tires weren't hurt, we were going to be fine, so we decided to stay out and try to stay in the front of the pack.
Well, there's an added advantage to having radio hookups with other teams because they passed on the information to this team. It came from Dale Jarrett out on the racetrack. Back to you.
All right, and the green flag is out as Jeff Bodine continues to lead. That is now Rusty Wallace running in second position, and Harry Gant back to third.
And Earnhardt jumped all the way up to 4th past Dale Jarrett and Mark Martin on the restart. So it's probably a little bit higher.
Earnhardt in 4th position. 5th, Mark Martin. 6th, Dale Jarrett. And then 7th, 75 car, driven by Rick Wilson. There's Dale. No worse for wear after that slight incident with Mark Martin. And now watch Rusty Wallace in car number 72 challenge for the lead as he and Jeff Bodine touch coming off of the 4th corner. And Wallace almost lost it. He says, okay, I'll sit back here and run second for a while.
And you asked me why I quit driving a race car.
Wow. All-out war on the racetrack in the Busch Grand National Series.
Now Mark Martin trying to make a pass on Dale Earnhardt again. He got a nose up the side of him coming off of the turn, but couldn't. There again, the horsepower up the backstretch got him. Has to back off going into turn 3.
We'll see what happens as they come off the corner. That's where Martin is able to pull alongside of him, and he does so coming off of corner 4. This time he completes the pass, and Earnhardt is sideways.
Ouch. Man, folks, this is unbelievable.
Mark Martin goes into 4th spot as Dale Earnhardt got a little bit sideways coming off the corner, but only lost 1 position. Now we see Dale Jarrett back. Oh, we have a car that has spun. In fact, a pileup down in the 4th corner as several cars are involved. One sitting high on the racetrack, the other toward the inside. Can't tell right now who is involved. The 01 car of Jack Pennington hit the wall. Also the 44 car of Bobby Labonte involved, and the 42 of Eldon Sawyer. So here comes Dale Earnhardt into the pits now as the crew tries to figure out if there is something seriously wrong with that car. Here's Jerry Punch.
Well, they're going to try to change tires on the right side of the Earnhardt car and make some adjustments here. The left side of this Chevrolet has quite a few tire marks already here in the early laps at Darlington. So Dale Earnhardt, and now the car stalls. Comes off the jack, he refires it very calmly and coolly, as he always is, puts it back in gear, and he drives away.
Let me tell you something. Let me explain something. You know, in all the broadcasts that we're doing, we talk about when the car is pushing that it won't turn. And when it's loose, the back end comes around. But yet, we reported a moment ago that Earnhardt's car was pushing. But yet, we've seen the back end come around a couple of times, which is a contradiction. What happens is when the car... There we see all the leaders coming in. What happens is when the car is pushing like that, you have a tendency to turn so much that when you come out of the throttle a little bit, the back end flies out. That's why.
Well, let's go down to Jack Arrote, who's in the Jeff Bodine pit as the leader comes in.
Well, Jeff Bodine lines his car up nicely for service by the Hendricks Motorsports Robert G-led team. Rusty Wallace directly behind him. Now, they're going to right-side tires. Remember, they can only change two. They're going to adjust the spoiler up a little bit, too, to try and compensate for the handling with the car. Meanwhile, Dale Jarrett is the first car out. Rusty Wallace drops his jack, and it was a traffic jam here as Mark Martin beats him out, and they put a stop sign up. They're going to stop all these cars, and we have close contact. Whoa, Bobby Hillen hits the back of the Wallace machine, and they were all tightened up there with the stop sign because the pace car had passed the line to stop them.
They were waiting for the complete field to go by. When you make a pit stop under caution, you have to go to the rear of the field, and the field had not cleared, and so that's why they stopped them down at the end of pit road.
What a traffic jam. Let's watch it again. Now, all these guys that are standing on the accelerators, getting out of their pits, are going to have to suddenly stop when they see the stop sign. Bodine gets hit by Kenny Wallace, and then Wallace is hit by another car.
And Bobby Hillen Jr. at the back. So just a chain reaction type of a deal there.
Meanwhile,
you know, Jeff Bodine sitting there, not a thing in the world that he could do about it. He was just the meat in the sandwich.
And he said, please don't hit me, and then boom, they hit him again. Wow.
So the cleanup is continuing down in the fourth corner. The number 01 car of Jack Pennington on the racetrack after having hit the wall. Well, NASCAR has a new rule that's designed to expedite the removal of a car from a crash site, as Jack Arrote will explain in this race edition of our Track Back. Track Packs are brought to you by Quaker State Motor Oil. The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.
Whenever there's an accident on the Grand National Circuit, the track crews experience a great deal of difficulty getting chains hooked around the frame rails to pull a car away from the scene of the accident. And what NASCAR has mandated in 1989 is the use of 4 very simple hooks on all 4 points of the chassis. They're welded there so that now when there's an accident, a track crew can reach up under, hook a chain on, and pull the car away from the scene of the accident. The reason for this change in the rules? Well, it goes back to Daytona in 1988 when J.D. McDuffie crashed in a 125-mile qualifying race and caught on fire, but was caught up with another car. Track crews went back to NASCAR and said, if we had these hooks, we could have pulled J.D. away from the wreck and hopefully saved some of the burns that he experienced.
So new rules all the time point to further safety innovation. Benny Parsons, Jack Arrote, and Jerry Punch back at Darlington International Raceway for Grand National Racing. There's the leader, car number 7, driven by Harry Gant from Taylorsville, North Carolina. We have completed 67 laps, and there are 24 cars that are on the lead lap. But Harry Gant is beginning now to move through some of the slower traffic. If he should pass that car right ahead of him, which is driven by Kenny Wallace, the 36 car, then there would be 23 cars on the lead lap, but for the moment, 24. And Wallace is the last one on the lead lap.
We talked about, at the beginning of the show, we talked about experience. As we see Harry again trying to put a lap, Kenny Wallace a lap down. Kenny Wallace is the young man driving that Cox treatment automobile. He's a young man that sat on the pole in Daytona. And look, here in Darlington, he's been lapped in about 35 laps. So experience getting around this racetrack. Next year, he'll probably last 50 laps before he gets lapped. And 3 years from now, he'll have a chance to win the race.
They don't call this track too tough to tame just for publicity purposes.
That's exactly right.
Out of the race, Ed Barrier, Jimmy Hensley, Craig Sachs, Jack Pennington was involved in a crash up in turn number 4. Bobby Labonte was also in that crash in an earlier spin. Darrell Waltrip, we just heard from a few moments ago, saying something went wrong in the engine, and Brad Teague in car number 33. as momentarily behind the wall. However, I believe that he may get back into the competition. Here's Gant, car number 7, still trying to lap some of the slower cars. You can see that he has successfully put a lap on Kenny Wallace. Now, here is Jeff Bodine, the yellow and white car, and Ned, he is moving.
Yes, he is. He's Kenny Schrader in car number 52 is currently running in the 3rd position, and Bodine has come from about 20th position to catch him. And Kenny Schrader has not made a pit stop. That's Michael Waltrip in the Post Serials car number 30 down on the inside. But Jeff Bodine moving around him and about to take over 3rd from Kenny Schrader.
So we watch this battle for 3rd position now. Kenny Schrader, car number 52, and Jeff Bodine in 15. Here comes Bodine to the inside between turns 3 and 4, and he successfully passes Kenny Schrader. And so Jeff Bodine now moves into 3rd spot. Ahead of him in 2nd is Rick Wilson, and the leader, Harry Gant.
You know, right behind those 2 cars behind him is Rusty Wallace. He's not letting Bodine go anyplace, so Rusty Wallace is running exceptionally well today.
Yeah, in fact, if anything, Benny, I think Rusty is gaining on Jeff Bodine, even though they're coming through traffic. He has really been coming back up through the field, too.
There still, though, is almost a full straightaway separation between Jeff Bodine in 3rd and the leader, Harry Gant. And there you can see now that Rusty Wallace has also passed Schrader.
That put him in the 4th position, moved Schrader back to the 5th position.
Rusty Wallace already 2 times a winner in Winston Cup competition this year. He has not won in Grand National racing, but would like to do so this afternoon. Meanwhile, there is Gant once again. Harry won 5 of the last 7 races on the Busch Grand National Tour in 1988 and has been competitive in the races that he has been in this year, but has not pulled off the victory yet. There he goes to the outside to lap one of the slower cars.
Tell you what, Harry Gant just might have made a mistake by not pitting earlier, Ned, because this thing keeps going. It's green, and 51 almost spun trying to make it to the pits, but Harry Gant, he should have pitted on that caution flag, because you never know, this thing may go green.
Well, if it does, it would be problems for him. For more on that, let's go to the pits and Jerry Punch.
Well, gentlemen, they're getting ready to bring Harry Gant in. As you look behind me, they're getting the tires up on pit wall. We expect to see Gant in possibly the next time by. You're right, Benny Parsons. They thought maybe they would get plenty of yellow flags here and be able to come back in at their leisure around lap 75. Well, we are now showing 74 laps complete, and at 75 laps here at Darlington, that's 102.5 miles, and that's stressing it a little bit early on in the race. With Jim Harmon, the crew chief, getting ready to bring Harry Gant down pit road for a green flag stop in the next lap or 2. Gentlemen?
Here's Rusty Wallace trying to make a move on Jeff Bodine, and he moves right around and takes over the 3rd position.
Wow, good move by Rusty up in that corner. And that seems to be the best place on this racetrack to pass. Is that between 3 and 4?
And that has not always been the case, Benny. Back when I was driving race cars, it was strictly a one-groove situation between turns 3 and 4, but they've redone the racetrack to some degree since then, and it has made it available to pass, and it makes it exciting when they do pass. Now, they made a chassis adjustment on Rusty Wallace's car when they made the pit stop. His pit stop was a little bit slower than some of the others. He was farther back in the field when they came out, but apparently it paid off for him because his car is really working to good now.
They also made an adjustment on Jeff Bodine's car. I saw Richard Bruman turning the bolts on his car. There we see Harry Gant once again.
Kenny Schrader about to make a pit stop. He was running in the 5th position. That'll move Dale Jarrett up into the 5th position now as Schrader goes into the pits.
And so is Harry Gant.
Yes, Harry Gant is making the pit stop. Let's go to the pits for a call.
Harry Gant brings a Buick down pit road, and Jim Harmon and the crew will be waiting to service Gant's car. Now, car owner Ed Whitaker is home watching on ESP, and he is ill. He cannot be here to direct the operation, so it's all up to Jim Harmon, who will be also changing the right front tire. Crew now changing right tires. Remember, you can change as many as you want to in the green, but they don't have the time. They got to get him out as quickly as possible. Gant revving the motor. They scurry around the car, and now they are trying to get the car fueled. He is down and away. Gant rushing down pit road.
Here's the race for the lead. Rusty Wallace takes the lead.
Wallace coming out of corner number 4 takes the lead. That's Rick Wilson second, but is he going to hang on to second, or is Jeff Bodine going to get it? No, Bodine gets second place. So positions are surely changing here. Wallace is now in the lead in 72. Bodine is second in 15. And 75, Rick Wilson is in third position.
Rick had drunk pretty far back behind Harry Dent. His tires are bound to be getting very, very slippery out there. He'll be coming into the pits before too long.
And it sure was nice to see the gas man on the Harry Gant car wearing the full Nomex with the face sock. You can't be too careful after what happened with Richard Petty earlier this year in Winston Cup competition.
We'll see more and more of that as each race goes by. Here's Tommy Houston in the Southern Biscuit Flour Buick. Tommy was running up in the top 10. Gets a right side tire change. As a matter of fact, he's changing all 4 tires.
And you can do this as long as we're under green.
And he's not changing brands of tires. It looks to me like he's putting 2 good years on.
And the second place car, or what was the second place car, Rick Wilson has now come in for a pit stop in the 75. He is pitting on the backstretch. There are pits both here on the front stretch where we are and on the backstretch, and Rick Wilson's happens to be on the backstretch. You can see fuel being put into that car, and those gas men are not wearing the full Nomex. But the tires are on, the fuel is in, and Rick Wilson moves away.
And Chuck Bowen in the Nescafe Pontiac, who had been running up in the top 5, also made a pit stop while Rick Wilson was in the pit, so he's back out on the track now.
Here's an interesting shot. Rusty Wallace about to pass his own car.
The Wallace brothers here, Rusty on the outside in the white and green, and Kenny Wallace in the green and white on the inside. And of course, that is not for position. Rusty simply putting a lap on his brother, and Tommy Ellis, the defending Busch Grand National champion, is in for a pit stop. The 99 car, you can see tires being changed and fuel going in.
And the car right behind him is L.D. Ottinger, the Detroit gasket car. Let's go to the pits and Jackaroo.
Well, it's a costly stop for Tommy Ellis. They only have 1 lug wrench to change the outside tires on the front, and it jammed. They had to run back across the wall, unjam it. Now they continue their work. He drops the jack, but this was a very, very long stop for the Goo Goo Clusters car.
It's about 35 seconds, Jackaroo, and that is a very, very long pit stop. Tough break for Tommy Ellis.
That's more than twice the length of a normal green pit stop. The 33 car of Brad T continues to be on pit road. It has been in and out just about all day. Now, Tommy Ellis, who we saw have that bad pit stop, the defending champion, he is 3rd in points going into this race in this year's Grand National Division.
Brad Teague still having problems in car number 33.
There, meanwhile, is the leader, Rusty Wallace, in car number 72. He has won twice in Grand National competition during his career. And, of course, not only is he a driver, but he is an owner. He doesn't own this car, but he does own the one that his brother Kenny is running, and he's putting some laps on slower cars. Well, let's go down to the pit area. Jackaroo is with Barry Dodson, the crew chief on this leading automobile.
Well, Barry Dodson, the question we've all got for you is, what did you do during that pit stop? Because he just like was shot out of a cannon back to the front.
We changed the tire stagger a little bit, Jack, and put some wedge in the car. It was loose. Started off tight, but it's getting better. And he says he's in pretty good shape right now. We're just biding our time.
By the fact that you can only change 2 tires during a caution period, does that hamstring you in terms of strategy?
Well, it concerns me. They waived a 4-tire deal right before the race, and I'm just concerned for everybody's safety. We just looked at Harry Gant's right side tires. He had 2:30 seconds after 75 laps. So if we go green, we'll go left side to the next caution. We'll throw some rights on it.
Well, that's the tactics that are going on down here on pit road. I think Benny Parsons and Ed Jarrett, this is a day where most people would like to make stops under green.
That's exactly right. Everyone would, because that way, if everyone would start changing 4 tires, they all could, and everyone would change 4 tires. No one would be the loser. But you're right. That was a good question, Jack, and asking Barry what they did, because the car is so much faster now than it was earlier.
Barry, of course, also the crew chief on his Winston Cup car. And right ahead of Rusty in car number 72 is the 25 car, driven by Rob Moroso, the current point leader in this division. And Rob is not having a good day. he didn't have a good starting position either, having begun the race from the 21st starting position, and it has not been a very successful day and weekend for Moroso.
He spun out as he came around to take the green flag on the first day of qualifying, so he did not even get to qualify in the top 20 and was the fastest on the second day, but that did put him far back in the field.
Looking at some action in the back of the pack as Mark Martin in the number 1 car is trying to make a move now coming down the main straightaway into turn number 1, trying to pass the 52 car driven by Ken Schrader. Schrader drifting high on the track in corner number 1. Here comes Martin in the Carolina Ford V6, and he is not able to complete the pass. Now he does down the straightaway.
Yeah, I think Schrader just backed off and let him go, and that's a little surprising because it's been a while since Martin was in the pits. He pitted during the caution when most of the other top drivers did. Schrader has on new tires now. You would think that he would be able to go a little faster, but he's on the Hoosier tires, and maybe they're not quite as fast as the good years when they are brand new.
Well, speaking of tomorrow's Trans South 500, that is the driver that will begin from the pole position. Mark Martin will begin from pole tomorrow in the Winston Cup race.
I tell you what, man, his car, the Mark Martin automobile, just like he was in Rockingham, he was able to run lower on the racetrack in any of the competition, and it looks like he can do the same thing here today, run right on the bottom of the racetrack when he has to, as he passes Jeff Burton coming off turn 4.
The car is really handling well for him, no question about that.
Burton, one of the Rookie of the Year candidates in the Busch Grand National Division.
Very articulate young man, too. He has a lot of experience in racing, even though he's just 21 years old. He has started racing really when he was about 9 years old in go-karts, and then moved up to the late model stocks, and now running the full Busch Grand National Circuit. Of course, his goal one day is to run the Winston Cup Circuit, but a very impressive young man.
His best finish in Grand National competition at 10th at Martinsville. There's Phil Parsons in 55, just ahead of Mark Martin in car number 1. The lead, meanwhile, continues to be held by Rusty Wallace, and here he is, lapping the 11 car driven by Jack Ingram. Jack Ingram off to his best start in many years in the Grand National competition, but again, we're dealing with a lot of Winston Cup drivers here, and when you pit them against some of the Grand National drivers, the Grand National drivers have to take a back seat.
And that was the 11th, the 11th car was running in 11th place. So right now, only 10 cars in the lead lap.
Well, and Dale Jarrett, one of those who is running in the third position right now, is about to come into the pits. It looks like there's action down on pit road in his pit, so apparently he's about to come in. He's slowed a little bit on the racetrack. The car's slipping up a little bit in the turns, it looks like.
Meanwhile, Wallace continues to show the pace. He finished second in that controversial Daytona 300, the Goodies 300. There was an incident, of course, involving him and Dale Jarrett on the final lap. Rusty came down to take the checkered flag and appeared to be the winner of the race, but then at the last moment, here came Darrell Waltrip to grab the victory away from Rusty. And this is only the second Grand National race of the year that Rusty has competed in. He chose not to compete in at Rockingham, Martinsville, or at Hickory last weekend. Steve Grissom being lapped.
They have his car working well now. Rusty can go just about anywhere on the racetrack that he wants to go with it, and that is a nice feeling on a track like Darlington.
We're at Darlington International Raceway, and this is the right rear tire that came off of your leader, Rusty Wallace. Now, this is not loose rubber. This is cord. This tire is flat worn out. Harold Elliott was over on pit wall, and he took a look at the left sides on the leader. Harold, how did they look?
Well, Jackie, they're not worn out, but I think they'll go the rest of the way. We had a situation we had to make up our mind whether the rights or the lefts, so we decided to change the rights. That's the side that takes all the pressure, so I just hope the left front will make it.
Well, it was a roll of the dice, and so far from the looks of these tires, they gambled the right way, but who knows? There's a few laps to go in this race.
Indeed there are, but we are going back to green here as the pace car has pulled off the track in the second corner, and the field is moving slowly now through the third and fourth turns. We should get a restart in just a matter of moments.
If his tires were worn out, then I think before the race is over, Harry Gant's going to have a real concern because he's going to have 75, 80 laps on his tires when the race is over.
Yeah, there's a lot of drivers out there that has a lot of old left side tires on their car. Dale Jarrett is in the best position tire-wise, but he's a lap down right now. So let's see if he can get back in the lead lap as the green flag waves.
Lap 105, and we are back to racing. There are 7 cars on the lead lap as competition resumes. The leader is Rusty Wallace. Second position is Jeff Bodine. Third is the number 7 car, driven by Harry Gant. In fourth position is Phil Parsons. And in fifth spot is the number 1 of Mark Martin.
Jeff Bodine slows going in turn 3.
Apparently, he's coming into the pits. We understand to change the left side tires. He wanted to change during that caution, but because of the tire rule, he couldn't do that. Jack Arute is there.
Jarrett, that's exactly the reason for them to have to come back under green flag conditions. They checked the left sides when he was here and they elected to go to the rights. They gambled and went the wrong way. The left sides were completely worn out. They had to go back out, though, and change under the green flag so that they could make a 4-tire change. Remember, this is the first car we've seen where the rule of only changing 2 tires during a yellow flag stop bit somebody, and it bit Jeff Bodine and bit him bad.
Good pit stop, about 11 seconds. He's going to stay in the lead lap. If he gets his speed up, the leaders come off of turn 4. Jeff Bodine down on the inside trying to get his speed up. He's going to be in good shape.
That's about as quick as you can change 2 tires on a stock car. 11 seconds. Bodine is indeed picking up speed down the backstretch. Here comes the field, meanwhile, at full speed. And it appears to me as if Jeff Bodine is going to stay on the lead lap, but it was a costly stop.
But I think it'll pay off for him in the long run, Bob, because he, like Dale Jarrett, has 4 fresh tires on that car now, and that should put him in good position, especially if another caution should come out.
The number 75 car running behind the leader, Rusty Wallace, is not on the lead lap. We have a car into the wall. The number 51 car, driven by Lee Falk, the Slender U Figure Salons Pontiac, is into the wall, and we have Ronald Cooper.
That's Brandon Baker.
I'm sorry, Brandon Baker is also sideways, now gets the car headed in the right direction, but we will have another caution.
Yeah, caution is coming out, and here's a race for the line. Rick Wilson getting his lap back from Rusty Wallace. Dale Jarrett coming off the turn trying to get his back, but he won't be able to do it.
Jeff Bodine now will be able to encircle the entire racetrack and be right back up there in competition. So that pit stop really did not hurt him at all. As a matter of Rusty Wallace in for a stop as they are going to change tires. Jack Arute will call the action.
Well, Bob Jenkins, you alluded to the fact that this was a break for Jeff Bodine, but it was also a break for Rusty Wallace because they gambled as well, and now they're going to change the left side tires. The activity is almost completed on Rusty Wallace's crew. Let's check in with Jerry Punch.
Well, Harry Gant changing right side tires, and now they dice down pit road, and Harry Gant will try to beat Rusty Wallace back on the track in turn 1, fellas.
Well, he didn't do it. Rusty won the battle out of the pits, I believe. They will get things sorted out as they move and blend into the traffic. But we should be set up now for a great finish. 35 laps to go when we go at the moment with 110 on the board. Jeff Bodine certainly in a position now to win this race.
Ned, you mentioned just a moment ago, Dale Jarrett had an advantage because he had 4 fresh tires, and now
he has the disadvantage.
2 laps later, he has a disadvantage. How fast things happen in this business.
Yeah, and he was just 1 car length away from being able to get back in the lead lap. He was gaining on Rusty Wallace, but just couldn't quite make the pass, and so now he's at the tail end of the lead lap, but all the others have on fresher tires really than he has.
And just a moment ago, this fellow, what a disadvantage he had, and now he's leading the race. Jeff Bodine is the leader of the race. Mark Martin made a tremendous pit stop. He alertly dove in the pits instead of trying to race back to the start-finish line, and he's in second place. Jack Arute is on pit road. He has something on Rusty Wallace.
Well, Benny, you know, most drivers would say I'd rather be lucky than good any day. Well, you know, look at this tire. This is the left rear off of Rusty Wallace's car. You can't see any of the tire marks where they measure how much tread is left. This is plain worn out as well. So he was very lucky that this caution came out, or he might have befallen the same problem.
In South Carolina, and we are on lap number 112 out of 147 and about to go back to racing.
Folks, now don't go to the refrigerator right now because it's going to be exciting in just a matter of seconds.
Now, the fourth car in line there on the top side of the racetrack, the yellow and white number 15 is the leader of the race. And the blue number 1 behind him is second. That's Bodine, the leader, Mark Martin second, then Rusty Wallace, Harry Gant, and Dale Earnhardt. Those 3 cars, those 5 cars really, and there are a total of 8 that are on the lead lap.
Dale Jarrett was very slow on the restart. Something's happened to his car, and that really bunches him up.
And Rusty's smoking. Rusty Wallace smoking badly off the second corner.
We had been given the indication that Rusty had a clutch problem. He indicated that he was not being able to get the car up to speed because of the clutch. And I don't know whether that's what's causing the smoke or not, but Rusty definitely dropping back on the field.
Wow, Dale Jarrett and Rusty Wallace both having serious problems on the restart.
Here's Harry Gant coming down on the inside, passing cars on the low side as the smoke continues to come from Rusty Wallace's car. Look at him, he's on the outside of Bobby Hillin Jr. Will they black flag him? Here's Dale Earnhardt now trying to move on the inside. Let's go to the pits and Jackaroo.
Well, Ned, it is indeed a problem with the clutch on Rusty Wallace's car. They say it shouldn't affect him in terms of running, but they're concerned about that smoke.
Well, it is quite serious now, and I'm not
Patty
sure.
East Benz up to 3 and 4, and it's probably going to bring out a caution flag.
There's Patty, the number 45 car that has spun. I don't think she made any contact with the wall, but it does bring out another yellow flag. And there it is being displayed.
So maybe that'll be a break for Rusty Wallace. They can come in and see what the problem is. If it's clutch, there's not a great deal they can do about it, but normally, Benny, a clutch doesn't smoke.
Well, that's right. I think he's probably got some oil on the clutch is why the clutch was slipping, and that's where the smoke's coming from. Look at all these cars trying to get their right lap back, and yes, was that Schrader that got his lap back?
Yes.
All right, all races Bodine back to the line.
Well, let's go down to the pit area. Jerry Punch with a comment on the Dale Jarrett situation.
Well, they are pushing Dale Jarrett's car behind the wall. On the restart, Jarrett said he just pushed the button and put it in gear to go, and the thing just popped, cracked, and then wouldn't go at all. Apparently, the engine has blown on the Portaloo Pontiac, and Jarrett's day is over here early. They're in the late stages of this Busch Grand National event.
Dale Jarrett, another tough afternoon. He'll be here tomorrow for the Trans-South 500 in the Hardee's Oldsmobile. Jarrett climbing out of the Portaloo Pontiac after a tough day at the racetrack. Rusty Wallace is going to come in. Jack Arute is going to explain what the crew does to correct what appears to be a serious smoking problem. Jack.
Well, now, Bob Jenkins, they feel that maybe the problem is in the transmission, and that what's happened is that the oil or the fluid coming out of the transmission is actually leaking down into the clutch, and that's why it's beginning to slip, because you shouldn't, of course, have as much smoke as they had if it was a clutch problem. So now they're going to go up underneath and take a good look-see, and you can see a lot of fluid dripping down beneath the car now. As they all are underneath there, it looks like they're on a treasure hunt, but this is not a treasure that they're looking for here. This could be a tough, short afternoon for Rusty Wallace after running so well.
The work continues on pit road for Rusty Wallace. Now watch the race to the stripe here as Ken Schrader gets the lap back, just edging Jeff Bodine at the last moment.
Well, he did just barely get back in the, I assume it's the lead lap that he got back. He certainly picked a lap up.
Yeah.
And you know, 3 feet. 3 feet is a mile and 3/8.
Yeah,
by beating him by 3 feet, it's a mile and 3/8.
Well, Jerry Punch is with Dale Jarrett, who's got to be disappointed after a great run. And there's Rusty Wallace going behind the wall. Take it away.
Well, Rusty Wallace pulls behind the wall. Your car being pushed behind the wall. It looked like everything was going to go your way. You were a lap down, and on the tail end of the lead lap, all you needed was another yellow flag, and you got it, but unfortunately it was because of you. What happened to the car?
Yeah, it just wasn't our day for the Portaloo Pontiac. It ran pretty good most of the day. The engine never did perform like it should. We've had some kind of problem here all week, whether it was electrical or what, but something finally happened there on the restart. It never took off on the restart, and if the engine would have been performing all week, then we might have been in a little better shape. The car drove really good after we made a few adjustments on it, and we thought that we had a good shot at it. But, you know, it just wasn't our day. We've run well in these races, and we're going to get a win here before long.
Well, Dale Jarrett out of it today, but he'll have a great starting spot for tomorrow in the Hardee's Pontiac. Another driver who's out of it just parked the car, standing by with Jack Arute.
Well, Jerry Punch, how quick the fortunes can turn in a Busch Grand National race. Rusty Wallace, you're leading, and now you're out. What happened?
Well, just on that one caution flag, it was really strange. I came in for a pit stop, and all of a sudden I started smelling some smoke, and evidently it popped the seal out of the engine or something, and it started pouring oil on the clutch, and the clutch was slipping, and everything was acting funny in the clutch pedal. So when the race got underway, it started slipping real bad and smoking real bad, so something's come loose under there.
Well, you could take, as you smell the car now, too, as it comes to a rest, and you could see the fluid as you pulled out. It looks obviously that, as you say, a seal came loose and that it was actually slipping down the clutch. What about the track conditions?
The track's in pretty good condition. The tires are wearing a bunch, but the wear was getting better the longer we went. So it's just a situation where we'll see what happens tomorrow on the 500. That's really gonna tell the story.
Well, don't go away yet, because there's still plenty of action here. And as they...
Darlington and Jeff Bodine leads the race with Mark Martin running in second spot now, and there are 8 cars on the lead lap. Ken Schrader did beat Bodine back to the line during that caution flag. Most recent caution flag got his lap back, but Rusty Wallace has dropped out of the race, so 8 cars still on the lead lap, and Bill Parsons among those still very much in contention in car 55.
Bill having a very good run, running in the 4th position here right now. Tommy Ellis, the Busch Grand National Champion, was just in for a stop-and-go penalty. Apparently he jumped the restart, and they brought him in just for a stop-and-go. He did not lose a lap on that exchange.
I tell you, Harry Gant's going after it. How'd you like that pass on the outside of Tommy Houston going in turn 3 just a lap ago? Very impressive by Harry Gant.
Battle for 4th place here. Let's go down to Jerry Punch, who has a comment on the Harry Gant story.
Well, Jim Harmon, the crew chief for Gant, just tells me that Gant has a bad vibration in the car. Apparently, on the restart, they had a problem with the throwout bearing. Now, the throwout bearing is a bearing that helps release the clutch. They may have a bad vibration either in the transmission or possibly somewhere around the bell housing. Gant's going to have to try to ride it out, but right now he's doing a heck of a job. Hey, maybe you guys upstairs, Benny Parsons and Ed Jarrett, can explain to the folks exactly what a throwout bearing is.
Well, what it is, Jerry, when you press the clutch down, you can't have a metal-to-metal situation because of the RPMs that the clutch turns. So when you press the clutch down, there's a bearing that makes contact against the clutch, and it turns the same RPMs as the engine, and therefore doesn't wear the metal out.
Gant is in 3rd at the moment, but not very far behind 2nd place Mark Martin or the leader, Jeff Bodine. There's the leader. 123 laps have been completed. 147 make up this race. Bodine is the defending champion of this event, having won this race back in March 26th of last year. And as we mentioned at the start of the race, he won the pole position for this event, and it made his 4th straight Grand National event that he has won the pole here in Darlington.
I got to give a call to the engine builder on that #1 Carolina Ford dealer's automobile driven by Mark Martin. A fellow named Don Kowalski out of Lynchburg, Virginia. This is the 2nd V6 Ford he's probably ever built in his life, and it's pretty doggone impressive.
It is very impressive, Benny, and I'm impressed with the way that car goes through the corners. Now,
Yeah.
Mark Martin is flat gaining on Jeff Bodine right now, and he's doing it in the corner, not taking anything away from the engine. He has good power, but I think they'd be the first to admit that they still don't have the power that the V6 Chevrolets and the V6 Buicks have.
Well, I agree with you wholeheartedly, but look at Martin. He has gained a couple of laps in the last couple of car lengths in the last couple of laps.
Well, Steve Meal, of course, is the crew chief on this #1 Ford, driven by Mark Martin. Jack Arut's with him. Maybe he can give his opinion on how this car has performed this afternoon.
Well, Bob, let's just ask him. Steve, what about it? Do you think that Mark Martin can catch Jeff Bodine?
I don't know. You could ask the same question of Harry Gant's crew about us. There's 3 real good race cars out there. We got a pretty good break a while ago, getting them rights on, then another caution let us change the left rear that was worn out. We're just going to have to take the next 20 laps and find out. We hope we can, but the rest of that crowd behind us hopes they can get us.
Looks like Bodine may be a little stronger in the straightaways, but that V6 Ford seems to work better in the corners.
Well, we're real proud of how the car works in the corner, but this is a new Ford V6 program we're just at the beginning of, and it's going real well considering the amount of time we spent on it versus the Chevrolets and Buicks.
Well, Jerry Punch, remember what I said at the outset of this race. Mark Martin and this crew are going after this event with a vengeance. They want to see that Ford V6 in victory lane. How about it, Jerry?
Well, they really do want to see the car win, Jack. And, you know, Benny Parsons mentioned about Don Kowalski, the engine builder up in Lynchburg, Virginia. He's a late model stock car engine builder. In fact, he had 116 victories last year among the people who ran his engines. But it's interesting. The Ford V6 engine he built He didn't even have enough parts to finish it, so he fabricated the parts himself. He made the stud girdle himself out of some sheet metal and some metal around the shop. That's where it holds the rocker arms in place. So he pieced it together, put it together, and I tell you, Mark Martin is really doing a whale of a job, and Kowalski has got to be commended for the kind of motor he put in that car.
There's the number 36 car of Kenny Wallace, which has been black flagged. Rusty, his brother, already out of the race. Well, certainly this Ford number 1 is looking very, very strong. There is the 71 car. That's driven by Randy LaJoie, one of the Busch Grand National North competitors, as he is slowing down and it appears to be headed for...
Caution flag on the racetrack. Must be some debris or something.
So the caution comes out once again. This time it's on lap number 129, and the reason for the caution is because the 71 car of LaJoie just bumped the wall. So they decided to race from here in Darlington, South Carolina. The top 5 with 132 laps complete. It's Jeff Bodine on top with Mark Martin running second, followed by Harry Gant, then Phil Parsons and Rick Wilson. There are a total of 8 cars on the lead lap. Now, here is the reason for our most recent caution flag. That's the number 71 of Randy LaJoie.
And it looks like he got into the wall just a little bit. Perhaps a little debris came off of his car in the groove up there. So that was the reason for the caution, but we're about ready to go back to green.
Randy LaJoie hit the wall very minor that time. In Daytona a few years ago, Ned, he had one of the most horrible crashes I've ever seen coming off turn 4. As a restart, green flag, Bodine leads him down the front straightaway.
Once again, here's Jerry Punch.
Well, Harry Gant just wrangled into his crew last time by and said, I'm not too worried about Bodine. His chassis apparently starting to go away a little bit. I'm really concerned about Mark Martin because Martin is probably the strongest car on the track right now. I don't think I can run with Martin. That's what Gant just told his crew last time by.
Jerry, I think he's right because that Ford is really going through those corners. He had caught Jeff Bodine. Now, Bodine got a good jump on the restart here, so Martin's going to have to drive hard to catch back up to him. But Harry Gant might have a tough time getting around him because he normally pass through the corners here, and Martin's car is going through the turns so fast. You can see how much he picks up on Gant. Gant in the white car, number 7, and Mark Martin in the blue car, number 1, the dark blue car, just drove away in the turn.
Be set up here for an exciting finish. There are less than 14 laps to go, and you can see the interval between first and second, but it also appears as if that number 1 car is pulling away from third place Gant.
Yes, he is, and I think he's gaining now on Jeff Bodine. Every time they hit a turn, he gains. That I am really impressed with the way that car is handled.
Batesville, Arkansas driver in car number 1. Looking for a Grand National win here this afternoon. He'll start from pole in the Trans-South 500 Winston Cup race tomorrow.
Boy, he really picked up on the backstretch over there. I thought for a moment that Bodine had slowed down, but Martin got off of the second turn so well that shot him up the straightaway.
Well, what about Jack down in the Bodine pit? What's going on with that car? Is he losing ground?
Well, indeed he is, Bob Jenkins. He reports back to original rhythm, and the problem is that the car is very, very loose. They're trying to keep the tires as cool as possible. They thought it was a big advantage for them to get the break on the restart, but they're gobbling up real estate second and third as they try to chase down the leader.
And indeed he is doing so now within just a couple of car lengths of Jeff Bodine. Mark Martin is fighting for that lead, and here's the 75 car of Rick Wilson and the 3 of Dale Earnhardt.
Earnhardt tried to make a pass for the 5th position, but couldn't quite do it at that point on the racetrack, so he'll have to try again. But meanwhile, up front, Mark Martin has caught Jeff Bodine.
136 laps completed. We've got 11 more to go, and now Martin appears as if he's in a position to go for the lead. Let's see what happens. They're still separated by about a car length or a car length and a half. Now Bodine stretches it just a little bit over Mark Martin. The Carolina Ford dealers Ford. Here they come off of corner number 4.
Well, he took a look on the inside, Bob, but decided this is not the time to do it. He's going to wait until he gets in a turn. He'll catch Bodine going a little bit high in a moment, and then he'll moving around. He's sizing him up right now. Where's the best place I can pass? He's a little stronger coming off of turn 2, but Bodine has the horsepower up the backstretch. You can see him move away on the backstretch. It's car number 47 having a little bit of a problem there. That's a bit of standards.
Yeah, I think the leaders thought the caution flag was going to come out because it looks like they slowed down Harry Gant. He's in the race right now.
Oh, yeah, he's very definitely in the race.
And
Phil Parsons. He's in fourth spot. We see him right behind that front four. The fourth car is Rob Moroso. He's a lap down, not in the race for the lead.
But he's staying right up with the leaders.
Yes, he is. Mark Martin comes off these corners like he's shot out of a cannon. Look at Harry Gant. I thought he was going on the inside of Mark Martin for just a moment.
Well, Gant's car is handling very well, too. He might get a run off of one of these turns and be able to pull up beside of Martin. That's what you have to do here at Darlington, is try to get a run off of the corner if you're going to pass somebody on the straightaway. We see Rob Moroso making an attempt there on Harry Gant. You either pass them in the turn or try to make a run off of the turn, build up your momentum, and go by them down the straightaway. Mark Martin is drafting right up on the back bumper of Jeff Bodine, and Vic, you do get a little bit of effect from drafting here, not like you do at Daytona and Talladega, but certainly you can feel the effects of the car in front of you.
Of course, these cars are running 160, 70 miles an hour down the straightaway. They're creating a lot of air turbulence and makes it much easier for that car to run behind in the slipstream. Martin right on the bumper of that Chevrolet, and that's going to make Bodine even looser if he can get up right behind him. It's going to create some problems for Jeff Bodine.
There are less than 7 laps to go. Here's Martin looking to the inside, coming off corner number 2. It's still single file, though, down the backstretch. Mark Martin looking for win number 5 in his Grand National career, and Jeff Bodine looking for his 6th career. Neither one of these guys have won a Grand National race in about a year. Bodine's last victory was right here at Darlington in March of last year, and the last time that Mark Martin won a race was at Rockingham in March of last year.
There's one place that Jeff Bodine is being
in a crash.
That's Billy Standrich in car number 47 that we saw in trouble there a moment ago, and now the caution is out.
And it will complete lap number 142 when they take the caution, and that means only 5 more laps to go. It depends upon how much debris there is up in turn number 4. It could end under caution. You see that Mark Martin made no attempt whatsoever to beat Jeff Bodine across the line.
Well, I think he tried, but he Jeff
just didn't do it.
Ready for it that time and raced him back.
142 out of 147 laps, and with only 3 more laps to go, it's Jeff Bodine leading with Mark Martin second, then Harry Gant, Phil Parsons, and Rick Wilson. We are about to go back to green at lap number 145. There will be 2 to go. Now, one of the things we have to look for is who gets the jump, who gets the good start as they come down for the green. Jeff Bodine has historically done that this afternoon.
Yeah, I think he will get a good jump. This caution definitely worked to his advantage because Mark Martin was really working on him in the turns and had a good shot at passing him, but now Jeff will accelerate away probably 8 or 10 car lengths, or at least he has in past restarts, and that should give him enough momentum to go ahead and win the race unless something else happens, but we'll just have to see here.
One disadvantage that Mark Martin and Harry Gant has is the cars on the inside, Rob Moroso and Ronald Cooper, and also the LD Andre automobile, because your green flag, we're going to find out right now.
2 laps to go. Bodine does indeed pull away from Mark Martin, and that may be the story of the race right there. He's only got 2 laps, remember, to maintain that advantage. And although Mark Martin's V6 Ford has been performing extremely well, it could be that he's just not going to have the muscle to take home the victory.
Yeah, he got the jump that we predicted that he might would, about 8 or 10 car lengths, and he comes around this time to get the white flag.
1 more lap to go for Jeff Bodine. Mark Martin is still right there. Harry Gant is the 4th car back. He doesn't appear to be in a position to win. That's Rob Moroso, who is separating 2nd from 3rd position. Now we'll watch and see if Mark Martin is going to be able to close in, and I don't believe he's going to do it. Jeff Bodine, it appears, has this race in hand. He heads for turn number 3 now, as the race belongs to Jeff Bodine off of corner number 4. And indeed, Jeff Bodine is going to win the Country Squire Homes 200 Grand National Race. Martin is 2nd, and Harry Gant right there in 3rd position as the checkered flag falls.
Phil Parsons will finish 4th, and Rick Wilson in the 5th position.
Jeff Bodine with win number 6 in his Grand National career, and it's been a little bit more than a year since he was in victory lane at a Grand National race. Last time he won was right here in Darlington.
Well, at least I don't know of any controversy surrounding this race. At least we got through one.
Yep.
For the first time this year.
The string is broken after 4 races in which there was at least some kind of controversy. We run today without any major situations that occurred all afternoon. So the top 10, there you can see Bodine Martin Beam Stakes. Auto racing has just been completed here at Darlington, and our Sears Die Hard Winner's Circle interview is being brought to you by America's best-selling replacement battery, the Sears Die Hard. To victory lane we go, and Jackaroot.
Well, Jeff Bodine, congratulations. Winner of the Country Squire Homes 200 today.
Thanks, Dad. Yeah, it was a great race. Real close, real competitive. Took a chance towards the end when we pitted on the green to change left side.